What's up, everybody? Welcome back to the channel. So today we're going to be upgrading the gauges on my 2010 Bentley 240 pontoon boat. Now the gauges that are currently on there are just the older white face with the gold trim, which look okay, but the main reason I'm looking to upgrade is because my current speedometer is not working. I tried playing around with the wires, I tried replacing the airline hose, and nothing worked, so I figured it's better just to replace the whole set than to go through the hassle of trying to find the exact one to match. So without further ado, let's jump in and let's check out the new Faria Beede black face gauge set for my pontoon boat. Let's jump in.
Okay, so the gauges that we are going to try installing today is a set of black and silver gauges from Faria Beede. Now this is a full complete kit, so it is going to come with your volt gauge, your RPM gauge, your mile per hour gauge, and your fuel gauge. Now being that my current mile per hour gauge is what is broken, I'm just going to go ahead and replace them all just because this boat is a 2010 boat and the gauges are over 13 years old and I just want to replace them all to make sure that they're all brand new. So let's go ahead and hop up in the boat and let's get this started. Okay, so we're in the boat and I still have the cover on the boat just because we have been getting a lot of rain around here in Western Pennsylvania. So here is the gauge panel that I have currently. These are the stock Faria Beede gauges from 2010. Now my mile per hour gauge does not work and I will be putting on a new pitot kit, which is going to consist of a new air hose and a new pitot that's going to mount down below, which is going to allow the water to create the pressure to come up here and work our actual mile per hour gauge. So let me go ahead and start taking this gauge apart and then we're going to just unplug everything. We're going to try to get the new gauges installed, hooked back up, and we'll go from there. So let me start working on this and we'll be right back. Okay, so far I have two of the gauges hooked up so far. I have the fuel gauge and I have the speedometer gauge right here. Everything's hooked up. I got my airline hose put in and now I'm working on the RPM gauge. So this kit comes with, again, all four gauges. It has all the brackets on the back and it comes with a full kit of new bolts and lock washers and all of that. So pretty much everything you need to replace your gauges, this kit has. So far it's coming along pretty good. Again, all I'm doing is one gauge at a time. So I unplugged my old gauge here. I put the new gauge in and I hooked all the wires back up the way they were using all of the new hardware. Then I moved on to the next gauge. So it's a lot easier to do one gauge at a time instead of just ripping all the gauges out at once and rehooking them all up at the end, because it might be hard to remember which wires went where. So I always recommend taking a picture of your original setup on the back before you start hooking anything up, and then to make it easier, do one gauge at a time and just work down the line. So I'm over here on the RPM gauge, so let me keep working on that and I'll be back here when I'm all finished up. So I'll be back in a minute. Okay, so we got everything hooked back up. That's what it looks like there. Now I don't have all the bolts put back in yet, but I did go ahead and get all of my wires connected and zip tied in the back. So let's go ahead and put our key in. And we're just going to turn it to on, and typically we're just going to see the fuel gauge and the volt gauge move, because obviously the speedometer and the RPM gauge is not going to move until I actually start it, and the speedometer is not going to show until I actually am moving in the water. So I really just want to take it out to the lake and test that out, because yes, you can take an air compressor and blow it in the pitot air hose, but I don't recommend that, because if you end up pushing too much air through the hose, it could damage your gauge. So I don't want to do that. But I will be taking this to the lake and testing it out this weekend. But we can at least turn the key and try a couple things now. So right now, I'm going to be looking for the fuel gauge and the volt gauge to move. So let's go ahead and turn our key to on. There we go. So again, I'm a little bit over a quarter tank of gas, which is about accurate. And I'm a little over 12 volts, which again is accurate. Now, one thing I didn't realize this kit came with was a brand new pitot air kit. This kit came with this gauge kit, which is really, really awesome. Now, I already put a brand new airline and pitot on the back of my boat, which I bought separately before I bought these gauges. So I'll probably just leave that on for now and keep this as a backup just in case I ever need a new pitot or I need to replace my air hose here. But basically, this little pitot right here, this right here that I'm tapping, that's going to attach to the back of your transom so that this piece way down here is in the water. And what happens is the water going under your boat is forcing water and air right down under here, which is pushing air up right there as you can see right there's a little nipple there, your air hose connects to that. So as water is going up under the boat, it's pushing water, creating pressure right here, which is pushing air up the hose, which comes up to your gauge. So I already replaced all of that. I have a new pit tot on the back and I have a new air hose already connected. So I'm gonna take the boat out this weekend and test it out. But this is a really nice feature. If I would have known this gauge kit came with this kit, I probably wouldn't have bought the other kit. But either way, not a big deal. I wanted to try the cheapest thing first because all of my old gauges worked except my speedometer. So before I went through the hassle of spending money buying new gauges, I wanted to just replace the air hose and the pit tot first. Now I did that and I still couldn't get the speedometer to work. So I don't know if something's wrong with the gauge inside or not. So that's when I decided to buy these gauges. So now that I have brand new gauges and a new air hose and a new pit tot on the back, I should be fine. Okay, so it is evening time. We got the gauges all hooked up and they're all ready to go. Now, one of the bulbs in the speedometer wasn't working, so I ended up having to replace that. But the only bulbs that I had on hand were the white LED lights. So I went ahead and just swapped out all of the bulbs just so that they all look the same. So as you can see right now, the light is off, but let me go ahead and click the light here. Okay, so now they're all illuminated. They're a nice bright light here. Turn the light off, turn it back on, nice and bright. So again, if this happens to be the case with your old gauges or if you happen to buy new gauges, let me just pull this out and I'll show you what you got to do. Okay, this little turned out here, I'll show you. If we just spin it, you can pull it out, pull out your bulb. I just went ahead and put some white LED bulbs in there, put it back in. Just like this. Gets kind of tight, but once you get it in there, lock it in, you're good to go. So again, I just went ahead and changed out each one right here with new LED bulbs. So everything's good to go. All my switches work, everything's good. Turn them off. We are good to go. So tomorrow we're gonna take the boat out to the lake. We're gonna test them out, make sure everything's working and functioning properly. But my initial impressions, I definitely give them a thumbs up and give them a go. They look great. The black face, I think, looks really, really good on this boat. It just looks a lot more newer and fresher than the old white face with the gold trim. They really just give the boat a much needed update. But so far when I turn the key, I could tell that the fuel gauge is working and the voltmeter is working. I'll just have to go to the lake tomorrow and try out the speedometer and the RPMs. So let's fast forward this video and let's head out to the lake. Okay, so here we are out on the lake. Gauges are looking real good. Got the RPMs in the low to mid 5,000 range there. Speedometer is working. Getting about 18 miles per hour right now, towing some rafts. Fuel gauge is accurate. Voltage is accurate. So far, these gauges are really looking good. Okay, so it's nighttime. We're in the boat. I actually have the tarp on the boat because I wanted to create the darkest environment possible to show you how these lights look like at night. So here we go. Look how bright those lights light up. That looks awesome, and I am really happy with how this turned out.
Okay, everybody, so there you go. So the overall installation was really not that hard. It's pretty much all plug and play. Everything fit perfectly, everything lined up perfectly, so I had no issues other than having to swap out the light bulbs, which was a very simple and easy fix. But I actually think it worked out better this way because the new LED light bulbs actually make the gauges light up a lot brighter, which is always better when driving at night. So at the end of the day, my overall impressions of this particular Faria Beede black face gauge set, I'm going to go ahead and give it a thumbs up and give it a go. I think it's great quality. Everything installed perfectly fine. Everything looks great, and I'm really happy with this purchase. But that's going to be it for today's video. Do me a favor, hit the thumbs up button and like this video. If you have any questions, go ahead and put them in the comment section, and I'll get back to you as soon as I possibly can. And also do me a favor, subscribe to the channel because it definitely helps me out, and I greatly appreciate it. So that's it. I just want to say thank you to each and every one of you. Thank you. I truly appreciate you all. And as always, see you in the next video.